Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Moorhead Public Service Commission meeting to order. It's Tuesday, January 17th. Commissioner Mary Daly will be participating in the meeting via interactive television from 718 Mound Avenue, Mankato, Minnesota 56001, which location is open and accessible to the public during the meeting. And Commissioner Joel Paulson will be participating in this meeting via interactive television from room 601 at the Fort Henry Hotel, 222 Broadway, Winnipeg, Manitoba, which a location is open and accessible to the public during the meeting.
Joel, can you hear us?
Mary, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Been a while.
It has. I'm here.
Okay, great. Joel, can we hear you, or can you hear us?
Joel, can you hear us yet? Joel, you're muted.
Eric, can you hear me now?
We
Yes,
can. Can you hear
thank you.
us?
I can, yes.
Perfect.
Great,
All right.
thank you. Moorhead Public Service Commission welcomes and encourages customer input on issues listed on the agenda or of general electric water utility interest, time and commission permitting. Speakers are limited to 3-minute presentations. Customers wishing to address the commission regarding a specific agenda item will be afforded an opportunity during the discussion of that item. Customers wishing to speak on matters not listed on the agenda will be given the opportunity to do so under the heading Customers to be Heard and Recognitions. Each person requesting the opportunity to speak is asked to fill out a register to speak form located in the back of the room and present it to the administrative assistant in attendance at the meeting. Any follow-up or feedback will be done by email on anything that cannot be resolved this evening. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by McDougall, seconded by Paulson, to approve the meeting's agenda. No discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? I now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by
Second.
Daly, seconded by McDougall, to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none. McDougall?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Daly?
Yes.
Thompson, yes. Customers to be heard? Any customers to be heard? No. Recognitions? We have one. Moorhead Public Service Commission would like to thank Chuck Henriksen for his dedicated service on the Moorhead Public Service Commission. Chuck has served on the Moorhead Public Service Commission since 2015 at different times, either as a city council representative or as an alternate. Chuck was appointed as a commissioner in 2022. As a member of the commission, Chuck's contributions to the utility have been valuable and engaging, and we anticipate that Chuck will continue to be an advocate for Moorhead Public Service. We're going to miss Chuck. He did great work, and he taught me a lot about the utility as well as being a great advocate. So, any other recognitions or?
Not at this time, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Great, thank you. Any old business? Seeing none. City Council report, there's nobody from City Council here today, so we'll move on. Public Service Commission, anything? I don't see anything. And General Manager report, Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, new year, and we'll start off with a couple things. In my general manager report, we've got a couple items on here, a couple I'll talk about, and I'm going to have Mark Pritchard talk about the Waters of the United States changes that are coming up as well, too. FERC and NERC, first of all, are doing an open joint inquiry on the Winter Storm Elliott. Again, that's where we had a lot of lost power down in the south, so they're doing an investigation into that to figure out what was the causes of some of those things as well. Secondly, the legislature is back in session. I've provided the Missouri River Energy Services legislative line. We get that on roughly on a weekly basis, and we try to provide that to the commission, usually during commission meetings as well, or the most recent one. Probably the biggest thing right now in the Minnesota is the House Bill 7 and Senate Bill 4, basically requiring utilities to go 100% carbon-free generation by 2024, including 55% renewable energy mandate by 2035. It's being touted as a goal. However, there's a lot of hooks in this thing and penalties if failure to not meet them. So a lot of concerns on that one. Moorhead Public Service is lucky we're already there. Roughly 80% of our load right off the top is that, and then we buy the renewable energy certificates to cover the last roughly 20%. However, that's not the normal. There's a lot of other entities within the state that might struggle with that, so it could be difficult, could cause rate impacts for any and all customers in Minnesota. So it's one that we're going to be watching closely as the year goes on, but it's been, it sounds like this is one that's going to try to get pushed through, rushed through, and there's a lot of off-ramps and other things like that that are of concern as well, too. So it would be one to keep an eye on. Senate Bill 41 has also got some concerns on it as well, and that's really what's going on with Minnesota currently, and we'll have more to update you as we get further on in that, in the session as well, too. Other than that, we got a thank you letter and a proclamation from the city of Bartow when we had 4 of our linemen down there, so they provided that. That's attached as well, too, during Hurricane Ian's recovery efforts. And we got a couple other thank yous in there as well from river keepers and to our water distribution crew as well. So had some very positive things going on in the last month or so. Other than that, I'm going to have Mark Pritchard come up and talk about the waters of the United States and kind of give an update on what's been changing over the last decade, because it sounds like we're going back to 10 years ago. So Mark, I'll let you go ahead and speak to that.
Thank you, Travis. Mark Pritchard, Water Plant Manager. As Travis had mentioned, we are going back in time for the Waters of the United States rule, which for us is a good thing. Back prior to 2015, there was a definition in place of what defined waters of the United States in a specific way that provided federal umbrella protection from a protection standpoint and a conservation standpoint for water bodies defined within the rule. For a little bit of context, the Waters of the United States rule is really the defining action by which the Clean Water Act is able to do its functions at the federal level. The Clean Water Act was an act put in place in 1972 to protect water bodies from contamination and pollution that would make them unserviceable. So that pretty much ever since it was put into place, that rule has been under scrutiny ever since because it can't quite find the happy medium of protection and allowing economic development in certain areas. And in 2015, that was the last year that the pre-2015 rules or the defining of this rule was the way it was. After 2015 took place, each of the 3 presidential administrations have each had revisions to that rule to try to change that definition. And by changing that definition, it changes that umbrella protection from a federal conservation and pollution control aspect. So for utilities like MPS, the Waters of the United States rule is very important because navigable water bodies and tributaries and such currently fall under the protections of this conservation and protection rule, with the pre-2015 definition. It got into a lot of scrutiny in the past 10 years or so, as Travis had mentioned, because certain entities wanted to have the definition changed to be more specific, to be less restrictive on certain types of water bodies. So that doesn't really mean a whole lot for MPS because we are on a very large water body that's nationally recognized as a navigable water of the United States with the Red River. It does, however, affect things upstream of major places like the Red River, so tributaries, wetlands, small streams, and of the like. That is what the definition discussion has really been centered all about. So from 2015 till about now, there has been an attempt to restrict that definition to essentially remove the protections for some of these tributary areas and wetlands. With this reversion back to the pre-2015 rule, that protection on all of these upstream areas has been essentially put back in place. And the US EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers have tried to make a, quote, more durable definition that could be subject to less scrutiny in the past by more or less using the pre-2015 definition and working in certain aspects of the latest studies that the EPA and the Army Corps have done to try to find a happy medium. So as we know in the water treatment world, an ounce of prevention equals 100 pounds of cure, if not more. So from MPS's perspective, going back to this pre-2015 definition is a very good thing, not only for MPS and the water supplies that we use for treatment, but also from a nationwide perspective as a whole. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Mark? Appreciate it. That's a lot of information. I didn't realize that. I know about the Clean Water Act because I'm that old, but in terms of understanding the ramifications for the utility, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
And then the last thing, we don't have a council member tonight, or commissioner that's a council member. Matt Gilbertson was appointed last week as the replacement for Mr. Hendrickson, which we talked about earlier this evening. He was unable to attend tonight, but he will be at our next meeting.
Great. I'd entertain a motion to accept the general manager's report.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Paulson, seconded by McDougall to accept the general manager's report. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Oh, I'm an aye too. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is to approve electric rate study proposal from MRES.
Yeah, and initially we took this off because we were going to have a new commissioner here tonight. Unfortunately, he's not able to attend, so I'm going to have Mark just kind of do a quick summary of it, and we'll move on with our evening. Go ahead, Mark.
All right, thank you, Travis. Good evening, Madam Commissioner and members of the Commission. We have before you today a periodic request that we put in occasionally to have Missouri River Energy Services complete a required electric rate study. Moorhead City Charter does state that the Commission may impose just and equitable rates for charges in the use of the electric system and the utility services under its control. And to ensure that the rates are just and equitable, the Commission is authorized to periodically complete cost of service studies. Over the past 2 decades, MPS has utilized Missouri River Energy Services to complete these studies using data that we provide, and they've done an excellent job with that. The last study was completed in 2018, so our financial strength policy requires that electric studies are completed at least every 5 to 6 years, so we are due for another one. Missouri River Energy Services has submitted a proposal to complete the study for this year. The cost of the study will be $22,000, of which they share half of the cost, so the net cost to MPS is $11,000. This compares to the study that was completed in 2018, which was at $20,000, for a total of $10,000 to MPS. I'm sorry, I may have misspoke. The current one is $22,000, of which $11,000 is MPS. The previous one was $20,000 of $10,000 net to MPS. Again, the purposes of the study is to determine that rates are sufficient to all classes and equitable, and that they cover all of our current operating costs, future needs, ensure that we meet the cash reserve policy, and financial strength policy of the utility as a whole. In the past, the studies have been completed by Tim Miller at MRES. He does an excellent job. He also completed a recent water rate study. He's been doing this for MPS as well as a number of utilities for years, and so we'll be very fortunate to be able to utilize him again on this rate study. And so at this time, I'd like to entertain any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mark?
Mark, what's the timeline? Oh, Mary's got a question.
Mary's got a question.
That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the timeline?
The timeline will be to complete this over the next 4 to 6 months with an ultimate presentation to the Commission as part of the annual rate hearing in October. We were hoping to move up the presentation earlier, but as Tim kindly pointed out, it pays to wait until they have their rates and everything in place, and that doesn't occur usually till late September, early October, and they'll have a better idea of what those are. So the final study should occur and be presented about that time, which is just in conjunction with us presenting our rates for the 2024 calendar year. So those two will occur almost simultaneously.
Any other questions for Mark? Seeing none, we'll move on to approving the proposal. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Daley, seconded by McDougall, to approve the electric rate study proposal. Discussion? Seeing none. Daley?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
McDougall?
Yes.
Thompson, yes. So that's been approved. There's no closed session today. And upcoming meetings, probably the 7th?
Yep, we will need to have the meeting on the 7th for an award bid, and we'll add a couple extra items on there as well, too, to lengthen the meeting out a little bit.
Sure. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Daley,
Second.
seconded by Paulson, to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.